Hello, Molly here on the Say It Skillfully podcast with leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, elite athletes, and professionals like you who open up about defining moments, what's been hard, and what they've learned in finding their true north and success on their terms. My guest today is a storyteller on a mission to help young people feel seen, valued, and alive with possibility. With a background in building and leading businesses, he brings a rare blend, strategic rigor, and deep humanity to his work. And this mission was born from a profound personal tragedy after losing his 14-year-old son in 2018 to suicide, transforming grief into purpose. His new film, Shift, Do What Moves You, is a hopeful, uplifting exploration of youth mental well-being through purpose, passion, and belonging. And this isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about rediscovering what moves us as a people. So I am honored to welcome back Jason Reid, founder of Tell My Story, to Say It Skillfully. Jason, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Molly. I always look forward to our conversations and enjoy them very much. It's always fun to talk to you.
Yeah, you just so inspire me. The many talents that you have across the professional universe, but also I think, as a parent and being able to merge the two. And, what you've done with your nonprofits is so moving, and we will talk about that and we'll talk about the film. I am really curious if you can share for listeners, because I think your own growth journey, just maybe a little bit about what you've been learning and how you've been growing, because I think that is a new me every day. Marshall Will Smith taught me that. And I think that it takes a lot, to do what you do.
Well, first of all, I think that there's a couple of different ways you can lead your life. You can just let life happen and show up and go to do your job every day and come home and take care of your kids and go to bed after you watch some TV. Or you can be purposeful about what you want to happen every day and how you want to lead your life. And, here we are in January, and it's January 16th or 15th today, something like that. And the question I have for everybody is always, do you have your year mapped out? Do you know what what's going to be different about you this year coming at the end of this year than going into this year? Because if you don't have an idea of what you want to improve and what you want to get better at and how you want to make your life different, you're going to wake up 30 years from now being the same person. And you'll probably be grumpy. You'll probably be overweight. You probably won't be happy with your life. You probably won't be happy with your marriage. You won't be happy with your kids. And you'll be ready to just be done at some time. And I think there's a lot of people who go through life that way. And I always just try to encourage people to just a little bit better every year. Like, just pick a couple of things you want to do. And don't be crazy about it. I've always said, I'm going to learn Spanish. I've been saying that for 30 years. I'm never going to learn Spanish. I'm never going to have the time. And I don't think my mind works that way. Right. So I try to pick the things that I'm decent at and try to get better at those things. I try to get the things in business that I'm better at, that I can make a difference in, that I can improve my businesses and improve my relationships with people, things I want to learn, how many books I want to read, how much I want to work out, exercise, my diet, things like that. But if you don't, at least my experience, if you don't take the time to write it down and plan it and review it every month to make sure you're on track, then it just never happens. And this is a time when I think that this year in particular is a year where people really need to buckle down and learn a few things. We can talk about what I think you should be spending your time learning and paying attention to. The world's changing very, very rapidly in a way it's never changed before.
Yeah. Before I get to that question, because I want to hear that, what are a couple of the growth opportunities or the goals that you have for you?
Well, for me, I love understanding AI and where that's heading. So over the last year, I've dedicated probably 8 to 10 hours a week into podcasts and books and trying to really understand what's going on in AI, where it's heading, how it's going to affect my businesses, how it's going to affect the world, how it's going to affect my family, my kids and my grandkids. I think I'm not an expert in anything, and I still have another really solid few years of staying on top of what that all means. So that's, one of my top things that I'm working on personally. I think that, being a grandfather, my granddaughter's, a year and a half, and being able to spend time in that grandfather phase of life. And I've got another one on the way and hopefully a third this year. So we'll have, that's a fun phase of life that I can hopefully be a better grandfather and pay more attention than I was a father.
What makes a better grandfather? This I wanna hear, because I have another actually, Harry Kramer is the most euphoric grandfather ever. Harry loves being a grandfather. So, your
Well,
thoughts on grandfatherhood?
I think the easy thing about being a grandfather is you can just focus in for an hour and a half and hand them back. So you can be a really cool person for a year, for an hour and a half, a couple times a week. Whereas when they're with you all the time and you're busy and you're young and you're building your business, which I was, I mean, look, I spent time with my kids and I was very close to them, as you know, but I was always thinking about something else while I was playing with my kids, right? Because I had so much going on. It's just more fun to focus. And it's, I don't know, I describe it this way. You see the little things you see as a grandfather. I don't remember seeing it and feeling the same way as a father. So that's
That's
kind of,
amazing.
it's a fun.
Yeah. So, what are some of the, from the, we'll dive into the movie in a bit, but the things that you would suggest for people to be learning about, open to in the world? Because, we talked about this. There's a lot to be anxious about
Yeah,
in our world.
there is. And look, I mean, it's not about being political. This is just reality we're living in. You can decide not to watch the news and you can decide not to pay attention to any of it. If that makes you feel better, that's fine. But I would suggest that you don't necessarily do that. I would suggest you actually try to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the message I heard, I had a previous guest and it was talking about people when they have different opinions, different backgrounds, and just the idea of being proximate. And you can't be proximate, you can't be close if you don't get close. And you have to have a bit of curiosity with an open mindedness, suspend judgment, if you will, and give oneself a chance to see things from different ways, which may not necessarily change one's opinion, but it may soften and create opening to see why other people think the way they do. And I just think the idea of all of us playing a bit of a role in helping unify, just a little bit of a role. If we can just do things that kind of bring us together, that's a really great start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best negotiators in the world will do everything they can to understand the other person's side before they start spouting opinions. And I think we live in a world where neither side is trying to understand the other side. They're just spouting opinions. And that gets us in trouble. And so that's the one thing I would suggest people spend more time on. The other thing is, if you're not paying attention to AI and learning what your AI is coming into your world from your own business standpoint, your own job, how it's going to affect your family, how it's going to affect your kids. If you haven't started doing that, you need to start now, because this is the biggest change we're going to see on this planet since forever. We've never had any change like this. That as fast as it's going to happen, has happened already, and will happen over the next 2 to 3 years. Everything is everything you know is about to change. Some of it's for the good. Some of it's going to get really, really rocky. And some people think that it's going to be amazing on the other side of it, but they can't tell you how long that other side is. And I'm not sure I completely believe that everybody's going to have a mansion and a yacht because the cost of everything's going to be zero, because I don't think it works that way. Economics would say it doesn't work that way. Just because there's robots doesn't mean everybody gets a free house. So I think you need to understand, we all do, what it all means, because that is a completely different side of the world. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think any of us have.
So this is huge. So number of people are doing this for their work, or they're already in it. For the folks listening who are like, well, it sounds like I do, but I don't even know where to start. What one or two things would you offer to get people started on their journey to learn about AI?
So there's a podcast I always recommend to everybody, and it's the Moonshot podcast with Peter Diamandis, and it's an hour and a half long. So yes, you actually have to pay attention for an hour and a half, but you can do it while you're out for a walk, and you do it while you're driving. You can do it. I believe in you. It's very technical, because they'll start with everything going on in the AI world. They'll talk about where energy is going. They'll talk about robotics, and they are definitely very, 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 and there's 4 very, very smart guys, super intelligent people on this podcast. And yes, a lot of the time they're speaking about things that are way over my head. And a lot of it sounds science fiction to me. And then as you pay attention, a lot of stuff's actually happening. You pay attention to what they were saying a year ago, well, that's actually happening. AI for Humans is another
Okay,
short one I listen to.
great.
you don't have to understand every little piece of the technical details behind all the different chips and the fabricators and whether we're going to have, and like data centers in space and things like that. But if you listen to it every week, you're going to learn a little more, and you're going to push yourself to learn more and push yourself to learn more.
I love it.
And you don't have
That's
to
a
agree with them.
great new habit. Yeah, that's a great idea. Just to kind of jump in because I do think it gets so intimidating. It can be easy just to kind of never get in there. And I'm going to take you up on that.
But I would say I would say to everybody is the most important thing you can do this year is understand those two things we just talked about. Because those two things are going to change the world. Both, whether we're in a war or not in a war, things are changing.
Well, back to what we have a little bit more influence on. Take us through, I'm curious to tell my story organization and when you started it. Was it just so obvious to you needed to do it? I'm just curious how you
Well, and
made it.
I think I've told you this story before, but when Ryan passed, I was going through his room. I knew I always started a foundation right away because that's just I didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to start something. And I was going through his drawers in his room. I'd go to his room. I'd be on the phone. I'd putz around. I open drawers looking for clues, looking for something, right? And I found a yellow sticky pad that said, "Here are my username and passwords, and tell my story." And that's where I started the first movie. That's where I did my first podcast, or my first. Done lots of podcasts at this point, a bunch with you, but my first TED Talks, my first Goalcast, and realized I had to try and make a difference for parents to help understand the things I missed. And as I did it, went deeper and deeper down this path, I realized that I had to help parents understand that they need to own their kids' mental health the way they own their physical health. And so we did our second movie, What I Wish My Parents Knew, is it's kids talking about their mental health, and it kind of grabs parents and shakes and go, this could be your kid. When you see the first young lady young girl in that movie, and she talks about how she wanted to throw herself out of a moving car at 7 years old, that shocked me to my core. And as I talked to more kids over the years that had mental health issues, they all say very similar things. Some say it just happened out of the blue. Like some adults say I was fine my entire life and then I got depressed, and that happens. But an overwhelming number of kids will say that I started having these feelings of not belonging and not wanting to be here when I was 6 or 7 years old. And they didn't know how to articulate it to their parents, so they don't.
Jason, how do parents create this space? Because the kids don't know how to have a conversation. The parents don't know that there's a conversation that needs to be had. What are things parents can do to create the space so that kids can start to share, that they can start to realize that there's something that needs to be shared?
You just have to start. There's no simple magic formula. Like if you go to my website, we've got the songs for the drive home that we wrote, 2 albums that play in the car. There's songs about mental health. Maybe they'll trigger your kids into having a conversation about it, right? Cars are great because they're not looking at you. They don't want to look you in the eyes, guys. If you think your kids want to look you in the eyes, they're not adults. They are scared to death looking in the eyes. We've got our card deck that you can get on Amazon, or it's basically cards that are meant to spark a conversation and ask questions. What are you most proud of in your life? And it's easier to do with the card game instead of sitting down and walking in the room and say, what are you most proud of? It's like, that doesn't work. Like gamifying it can get a conversation going a little better. Otherwise they go, Dad, why are you being a dork? Right? So, but starting a conversation, asking how they're doing. I mean, I just did a keynote yesterday in San Juan, and we did 90 minutes with a group of 250 people. And, one of the things I said is, when you sit down with your kids, when you have a moment, when they seem vulnerable, when they seem like they're chatting, and say, I just got a question for you. Do you like me? Yeah, I like you, Dad. Do you love me? Yeah, of course I love you. All right, cool. Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? And just let that sit there. And maybe your teenagers who, what are you? Just leave me alone. But it's going to stay in their head, and they'll come back and talk about it again. You can't be afraid of having the conversation with your kids. You can't be afraid of saying, sit down and watch Tell My Story. It's on Amazon Prime with them, and say, let's just watch this movie together and talk about something. They're not too young to talk about it. Mental health conversations were never in my house because they were never in my house growing up. And I didn't know I had to have them. They're in my house now. Too late, unfortunately, for Ryan. But you have to ask the questions, and you can't be afraid of saying when you think that your kids are depressed or anxious or in a bad spot, and ask them, say, I'm concerned. Have you ever thought, how deep is this feeling? Have you thought about hurting yourself? And now I just made some of your audience go, I'm never going to ask that question, but you have to ask that question. And I'll give you a great example, right? And there's a follow-up question to that one, but let's start with the first one. I was at this conference speaking at a group that I'd spoken at a couple of years earlier about business topics and stuff. And the CEO came up to me and he said, no, he was, no, that wasn't the CEO. I'm sorry. So another friend of mine came up to me. I'm sorry. And I know he said, after Ryan passed you, he said to me, I told you my daughter was in trouble. I'm like, yeah, I remember. He said, remember what you told me to do? I think what did I tell you to do? He goes, you told me to ask her if she was going to hurt herself. And I didn't do it. It took me a month. You sent me your TEDx talk and I didn't watch it for a month. It sat in my inbox. And then I finally asked her. I'm like, what'd she say? She said she did, and she was. She'd been thinking about killing herself. He goes, if I didn't ask that question, I'm not sure what would have happened. And today she's 10 years older. She's 25 and she's happy and she's loving and she's got a great life because they caught it. But if you don't ask, and I didn't get a chance to ask because I wasn't thinking about asking, then you never catch it. And by the way, she said, thank you so much for asking, because they want to talk about it. They don't necessarily want to do it. They just don't know what to say or what to do about it. Now, after you ask that question, the next question is very important too. Okay. Then don't freak out when they say they thought about it. So I need to ask you a follow-up questions. Do you have a plan to do this? How serious is this? If they say, yeah, no, I have a plan. I know where you guys keep your pills and I was going to grab them one night when you're out. Well, then we need to do something about that right now. We need to take them in to a therapist, probably get them to the hospital, make sure they get some help right away. If they say, no, I just don't always feel like living. I don't always feel that way. Well, lots of people don't always feel like living. And that's not a reason to rush them to the hospital, but that is a reason to start getting a therapist and having conversations with them, making sure they know they're safe to talk to you. And then don't try to fix them and tell them they're wrong, please. Just listen to them. If you try to fix them and tell them they're wrong and they have all this to live for and all this kind of stuff, and they're silly to do this and don't do that, they will stop talking to you because that's not what they need. They just need to get it all off their chest. And ask them, do you want my advice? Do you want me to tell you what I think? And if they say yes, feel free to tell them what you think. But like I always tell every man I know, remember when your wife tells you that she doesn't want your advice, she just wants you to listen. It's the same thing. Just let them get it off their chest. So that's kind of how this all came about and where we're at. And then you bring us to our latest movie. Like I've done a lot of stuff trying to help parents understand, what they need to do with their kids and how they can help their kids and how serious this is. And in my own little way and in Dana's own way, I think we've made, and my team's way, an impact. How big? Don't survey and I don't track and I don't do that kind of stuff. But I know I hear the stories. If I went to see 250 people and only one person had a different conversation with their kids than they were going to have, then it was worth my time going, right? So, and I'm sure there was more than that because they all told me it was. But we want something to be a little more hopeful. And like, what else can you do, right? Like, okay, so I can talk to my kids, I can get them to a therapist, I can put them on medication if they need that, but then what? And so it was Dana's idea to come up with a film that showed hope. The way we wanted to do that was to be interviewing kids that had leaned into a hobby or an interest or a passion that helped them rise up from their own depression and anxiety issues, give them something to wake up and be excited about. So we interviewed, I think it was 13 kids, just varying from a young girl who races race cars to a girl who does poetry, to singers, to a young girl who likes to ride horses and has that kind of equestrian training and therapy going on and just loves that. Just a whole bunch of variety of kids, right? And kids with their own businesses, kids who play tennis. But things are patterned. Something that get them up every morning and go, I'm excited to go do this. I mean, this is what I like. And I think it's so super important because what's happening a lot out there right now, I see and I believe, is that we get a child or an adult, works the same way, who is depressed. We're getting better at saying, wow, this is a problem. right? I think if you look in the last 10 years, we're getting much, much better at identifying, this is depression, this is anxiety, this is serious, let's get somebody some help. The mental health conversation has definitely risen across the board, right? So kudos to all of us who are trying to make a difference. But then I think what happens is we say, okay, someone in my family has depression, check the boxes. They don't seem like they're going to kill themselves right now. That's good. Get them a therapist. Maybe that therapist or psychiatrist says they need to go on some kind of SRS or drugs. And now we can just monitor them to see what's going on. And that's kind of where a lot of it stops. And then we just say, okay, we dodged the bullet. Now what? But we haven't moved past the now what. And here's a kind of a sad thing about when you put people on medication. And I'm not saying don't do it, because I wish I had the ability to put Ryan on medication, right? I didn't have a chance. 60% of the medications don't actually help because it might be the wrong medication. Because there's so many of these different medications that are just slightly different for everybody. And even depending on what you want to believe, 40% and what you read, the other 40% are effective, but maybe half as effective as you hope they'd be. So just putting your child on medication or your spouse on medication isn't going to solve the problem. And we can't set it and forget it. But what I realized when doing this film, and I realized from my own life, is that it's so important for us all to have something in life that is more than just going to work, more than just going to school, more than just having a spouse, and more than just having a family and a few friends. There's got to be the you thing. What are you excited about? What do you want to go do? Is this making sense to you, Molly?
There has to be an inner sense of what's uniquely me. It can't be about all these others. And, I think we go through life lots of times, parents serving, and then we've never taken time to kind of get to know ourselves and to give ourselves a chance to explore the things that really light us up. And if you and a lot of it's the process of elimination. So if you haven't kind of gone through that, you can get to a point where it's kind of like a wall. You're like, here I am.
Yeah. And you can try different things, and you don't have to be great at it. I'm not great at very many things at all. I mean, I like to tell people I try a whole bunch of stuff, right? So I played guitar if I'm 58, I've played guitar for 45 years or something, 44 years. And if you gave me a guitar right now, which I've got guitars scattered all around this house, I can't play you anything without something in front of me to read from. And I can only strum. I've never played in a band. I'll never play in a band, right? In our stuff, I help write music, but I don't play anything, right? I'm not capable of doing that kind of stuff. And I'm only decent at singing because I've spent like thousands of dollars on singing lessons, so my wife won't throw me out of the house. Because I only play in the kitchen or the living room while she's making dinner, because that's the only time I play. But I'm not good. I'm not going to go on a stage anywhere, but I do enjoy it. I do love it. I have a lot of fun with it, right? I'm an Ironman guy, technically. I've done 2 full Ironmans and 7 halves. And I had another DNF at another Ironman. And you know what? I did them. I get to say I'm one of the few people in the world who's raced an Ironman. But the truth of it is, I came in last almost every single race, and I sucked at that. And technically, I can say I'm an athlete because I've done an Ironman. I am not a very good athlete. But for a period of time of 7 or 8 years, when I was in my 40s, it was a fun thing to do with my friends. It was a fun thing to travel around the world and do races. It was great to stay in shape. But when you ask me which of the 3 sports, running, swimming, and biking, do I like the most, I say I hate them all equally. And at a certain point, I said, I am not going to go ride my bike on the road and get hit by a car. And I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a porta potty ever again in my life. I'll keep going. All right. Because it's important. I have written 7 books like this, right? I've written kids' books. I've written business books. I've had deals with publishers. I've had all this kind of stuff, right? I have written 7 books. I like to tell people I've written 7 books and I've sold 8 because no one ever buys my books. And I'm okay with that. Because the process that I went through and the passion I had to write those books at the time, and yes, I thought every single one of them was going to be a bestseller.
Well, yeah.
But it's not that easy. But man, I learned a lot writing those books. I've written the 7 screenplays. I got like top 10% of the Austin Film Festival, which is like getting through kindergarten. It means nothing. But none of my screenplays were movies. I thought they'd all be movies. But it was still fun and exciting to try a hobby and do something new. So that's, to me, is important, right? Because it's very easy in my world to get hung up working. I work a lot. But I still need to take that half hour a couple times a week and play guitar. I still need to work out a half hour to an hour a few times a week. I still need to go have my current hobbies, which they're a lot. I don't take up a whole bunch of time, but they do take up a little bit of time. But those are the things I get to look forward to for me.
I love it. And folks listening, the fact that you just love to do it, whether you're good at it, that's not the point.
No, I suck at it all.
It's and I think as an example, for parents or for friends, is the ability to kind of stretch a little bit and then see what happens. And you may not know that you're interested in something. So sometimes, I think I've had young people and it kind of nothing's interesting. Nothing's interesting. And I think sometimes you just kind of put it out there and give it a shot and see what can light you up. And I think that idea of like being open to and pushing yourself a little bit to try something new is a great example for other people to see too, because, I think you kind of never realize how many amazing people have I met in the weirdest ways ever. And so I just think it's another way to expand our universe of relationships. If you're kind of only going to work and you only go to church, you're going to have those friends. Some of my most cherished friends are most random. Like I decided to go somewhere and I was on a plane and I met the person in the airport. It just goes on and on and on. So I think that thirst for just kind of doing things and pursuing and having interest for the sake of having interest, folks, is really something that might be a new thought for people.
And I think you have a balance of things, right? You've got your work life, you got your family life, you've got your physical life. It'd be walking, whether it be working out, do something to get off the couch, something creative. It doesn't have to be anything special. Go to one of those hobby Joann's craft stores. I don't know if they're still in business or whatever the heck those things are, right? Walk around the aisles and you'll see all these different things you could try and build and make and go, I'm going to try painting. There's canvas and there's paint there. I'm going to see if I can paint something. I'm going to get a YouTube video. I'm going to try to paint something. I'm going to build a model. I'm going to go back to my childhood days and go put together. I'm going to go to a hobby store, buy a plastic model, buy some glue and make a model boat or a model plane. Just because, you know what? I used to love that when I was a kid. Or your kids surprise them one day with, here's 5 model kits and some glue. Don't sift the glue, but put the models together. And they'll be like, how the hell do you do that, Dad? And they're like, yeah, that's the fun part. You get to figure that out. There's instructions and you have to read them and you have to do this. And you have to use your hands and you're not playing on your computer and your computer screen. I don't think anything on a computer screen counts as what I'm talking about, by the way. Right? Yeah. Now, I'm not talking creating on the computer. Let's leave that off in a category on its own. I'm like something with your hands that doesn't involve a computer screen. And then, of course, the spiritual piece of whatever that means to you.
Yeah. This sparks a very pivotal thing that I did. And as a young adult early in career, I had someone set up a time for me to speak with the #1 woman at American Express, Anne Busquet. And so she talked about this Johnson O'Connor aptitude testing, blah, blah, blah. She just basically said, everyone who I mentor, I tell they should do this. And I'm thinking, like, well, I'm going to go do that. And so this Johnson O'Connor aptitude testing, and I would have had, if I had kids, I would have had them do it. I wish I had done it when I was 17, but it literally tests, like, what are your aptitudes? The whole range. Like, some people have great motor skills. They are great with music, but it starts to help people get to know themselves. Because, parents have aptitudes, but your kids may have aptitudes that you don't have. Okay. And you had no idea that was something that was some hidden jewel that they have. But when we know our aptitudes, it's very important because it's a need. It's something that we need to fulfill. Now, your job, maybe it is about analytical thinking, or maybe it's about creativity and you're in an analytical job. You don't get to do the creativity at work. That creativity is still an aptitude. And if you don't satisfy it, you're kind of not whole. You don't feel fulfilled. And so it was really important I had gotten to working and I love to cook. I have a creative streak. I'm not purporting to be a creative genius. Let me be clear, but cooking it kind of pointed out, right? And I was like, wow, I have to do some of these little projects. I took pottery. I knit this sweater.
Oh, good for
I
you.
like to do that kind of stuff, right? So, I think that
That's a great sweater,
that
by the way.
sort of yeah, thank you. I really I do. I'm very fond of it, and I even have matching mittens.
Fantastic.
Uh, so for folks out there, I mean, you just if it's maybe it seems interesting, go for it. And I think that sends a message to other people because it's kind of freeing. Because I do think, to your point, you're doing a triathlon. Well, you're only going to do it if you're going to win. I'm like, no, I'm just doing it. My niece, God bless her, she got into. We're like, you're doing triathlon. She's totally doing these half triathlons. She's biking all over, swimming every day, running and whatever. He loves it. Is she going to like leave her day job? No, but it's something that's really helped her. And to your point, maybe she does it for a bit and then she won't do it ever again. Or maybe she does it for the rest of her life. Who knows?
Well, and the other thing you realize is you got to give it time, right? You got to spend the time. You got to, like, if I gave up on guitar 10 years ago, I wouldn't be enjoying playing it now, right? If we have a production company, my partner and I, that we do music videos, we did the films, What I Wish My Parents Knew and Shift. And we've got a Ghost Town USA program where I go and interview people that live with ghosts. In fact, when we're done here today, I have to go down and do 2 interviews in San Diego with some amazing ghost stories. And that goes up on TikTok and YouTube. And you know what? We've been at that for a few years now. It's not huge, but it's getting better. And the content we're doing now is better than the content we did 3 years ago and 5 years ago. And you can see that in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to make something really, really cool. I think we've really made some cool stuff already, but it takes years. You overestimate what you can do in 1 or 2 years and underestimate what you can do in 10 or 15 years. Right. But most people don't give it the time because they're like, I didn't get good at this fast enough. Like, I could probably be a much better athlete and triathlete if I wanted to put the time into it. Right. I just didn't want to. I didn't like it. Right. I did it for long enough, but I'm like, I did this long enough. I'm sure I could get better. I know what it's going to take to get better. I was unwilling to make the sacrifices to go do that. Right. But with other things, I am willing to put the time in, whether I'm good at it or not. You just have to find what you want to do. And I really encourage everybody. It's not just kids. I mean, I encourage you to make sure your kids have something. Like, if they're on SRS, if they had depression, help them find something they want to go do. Take them to a craft store and walk them around and say, what do you want to do? What do you want to try? Let's just do it together. Let's try something that you might want to do and just find something. Right. But get them to do.
And what if the kids say, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. So how help coach some of our parents who want to be able to kind of, do you just say, hey, let's just do this? I mean, this is kind of, I think, the edge. I think a lot of parents are a little bit afraid to push it.
I think you just have to have the conversation. Like, all right, so introduce them, show them different things. Walk them around the store and go, and get your eye. What do you think you'd ever do if you had to be an artist? And I know you don't want to be an artist. So you already told me you don't want to be an artist. But if you had to choose to be an artist in one little thing, what would it be? If you had to, if you were forced to? Well, I'd probably try this. All right, well, why don't we try it? No, I'm not going to choose anything. No, it's a game. You have to. Let's assume that you don't have a choice. And you had to pick one thing because you're going to be made to do something. What would it be? I guess I tried that. Okay. Or you know what? Go buy something you're interested in and then have them sit and watch you. If they see you and like kids model our behavior, right? They model our behavior. If you're angry at home, they're going to be angry in life. If you drink too much at home, they're going to drink too much. Right? If you sit on the couch and watch TV, they're going to think that's okay. Whatever you do, they're going to model. And that's a lot of pressure. And I understand it's not fair, but you had kids, right? Think about that and then understand that's very powerful. So if your kids see you getting up early in the morning and working out and not sleeping in, they're going to, oh yeah, that's not something I should do. None of my kids sleep in past 7 o'clock because they know I'm up at 5, right? They can text me at 6 o'clock and they're like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, working. What are you doing? But that's how they see me, right? My kids have hobbies because they see me having hobbies, right? They see my wife being busy. My wife doesn't work, but she's still up every morning going for a walk first thing in the morning and busy with her day all day, right? And she's got lots of hobbies. But you just try something. Pick up if you can't get your kids to go do it right away, then you pick someone up and you try it. And you let them watch you, and you let them see how much joy you're getting from it. And the more you talk about how fun it is and frustrating and like, crap, this isn't exactly what I like. Hey, Dad, that painting's crap. I know it sucks. I'm going to keep trying though.
Hey, Jason, I know that the parents are all in. They want to help their kids. And I can imagine how hard it is for the parents to kind of stick with it. Thoughts from you on how parents can do their self care and what kind of resources they could go after?
I don't want to ignore the fact there's a whole bunch of people out there in the adult world. They're struggling right now too, because I understand that. And you have to talk to people. You can't keep it in. Go find a therapist. And if you don't like that therapist, go find another one. It might take you 5 times. It might take you 7 times until you find somebody you gel with. And you'll know you gel with that person because you feel better when you talk to them than if you don't talk to them. If you're not feeling better coming out of a therapy appointment, then it's not the right therapist. And it's hard to make that complete match. Talk to your friends. Talk to your spouse if you feel comfortable talking to your spouse. If you don't, talk to your friends. Talk to your parents. Talk to your siblings. Find somebody you can talk to. And then get moving. The unfortunate thing with depression is it also means that lots of people are not moving. They're in their house, in their bedroom, and they're not moving. Physically getting outside and moving helps change your brain. Finding something to do, like a hobby or an interest that you can throw yourself into to take your mind off of how you're feeling, helps and changes things. That's why we did Shift. And I feel for anybody who's got those challenges, and I know there's a lot of us out there that do. And you kind of have to save yourself to a point, right? You have to put your hand up and say, I'm drowning, because no one's going to know you're drowning unless you put up your hand, because they don't see your body. You don't see your head bobbing underwater. They don't see it, right? You got to put your hand up and say, I'm drowning. I need help.
Jason, on a therapist topic, and I think it says, oh, get a therapist. And that is not necessarily the easiest thing, having done this with some family members. Any thoughts or suggestions for people as they approach that?
It's not the easiest thing. And I'm going to throw something out there that's controversial. AI, whether it be Gemini or ChatGPT, can be helpful to talk things through with. It actually can be. And there's guidelines and guide rules up there these days that weren't there 6 months ago that, it's not going to help you go and do the wrong thing. But I find it helpful when I've got a tricky problem with somebody I want to talk, here's my problem. And it's amazing how good it can be. I'm not saying just rely on ChatGPT. I'm not saying just go and don't lock yourself in a room and talk to ChatGPT for 8 hours. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're struggling to find a therapist, there's lots of online therapists, there's lots of in-person therapists. There's so many options for therapy now. It's a matter of finding the right person. But if you're tight on money and you can't get there and you're struggling, talk to a friend, try talking to AI. And I've heard lots of stories of people getting some really good benefits about using AI to help them, even though I would say be very cautious with how much time you spend talking to AI and how much time you do it. Because that can just take you deeper down the rabbit hole. And realize it's not a human being, no matter how much it feels like it's a human being, no matter how much you're going, this is real. It's not. But it doesn't mean it doesn't have good advice, because it actually does sometimes.
Yeah. Super helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Before we wrap, I'm curious, because I just think a lot of us maybe dream of making films and movies. So I am curious, what are some of your big lessons in learning to create films? I am curious how you got the people to be in the films. I mean, just a little bit on the process for those of us who don't have the inside scoop.
You want to start making movies, you want to start making stuff, just grab your iPhone, go out there and start talking to people and interviewing them. Go make up. I mean, we've even the iPhone is such a great camera now. We have all the big cameras. I have all the big equipment, right? But even what we're going to go do today, Ken's like, I'm just iPhoning the whole thing because it's the same. It's exactly the same as these giant cameras we have these days. I don't need to bring everything, and I can fix everything in post with all the lighting and it's so much easier. I mean, we're doing films now. He just showed me one we're wrapping up. That's 40% of it is all AI generated film. Like we're interviewing people from the Volo Museum out in Chicago about their great museum with cars and all this kind of stuff, and this giant kind of fun museum they have. And the whole history of it all was created in AI. In fact, we're going so far as that our goal this year is to create an entire film, a 90-minute full film using all AI. Now, that doesn't bode well for Hollywood, because I'm not the only person who's going to do that. But it's like anything else. Just get in there and try it. Get in there and play with it. Watch videos on YouTube about how to do it. I mean, the great thing about the world we live in is that anything you want to learn, you can learn through YouTube and AI. Anything you want to learn, you can learn. There's everything on the planet is now there for you to learn. Pick whatever random crazy topic idea you ever thought you wanted to go do, and you can go do it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, Jason, a quick wrap. Okay, you've impacted a lot of folks. You've helped tons of people. Is there a particular bright spot for how the film has impacted and helped people?
I think I'm very happy with the results I get out of adults. Because when I stood in front of like 250 adults the other day, I said, this is for your kids, but it's also for you. And I said, how many of you actually have a hobby and an interest and a passion outside of work? And maybe half the hands went up. And at the other half, I'm like, so how many of you want to start having one now? And they're like life is going to pass you. Life goes so fast. Like it's January, whatever the heck it is, 16th. It was like, what happened? It was August, it was September, and now it's January. You and I could be sitting here a year from now doing another podcast and going, what the hell happened to that year? Right?
Exactly.
And some people are sitting on their couches going, I don't know, not much. I've been on my couch the whole time.
It's not going to be you or me. So you have done so much. Every time I talk to you, I'm in more in awe about all the range that you have, Jason. But is there a particular accomplishment that you are super proud of?
Yeah. I am most proud of the fact that I've built my companies. My core companies have about 3,000 employees. And the amount of people who have been with us for 10, 15, 20, 25 years is amazing. Hundreds of people that have been with us for years and years and years and years have built lives and they'll feed their families, buy houses, buy cars, and love being here. And the culture that we have that makes them want to stay here is what I'm most proud of.
I love it. Okay, rapid fire. If you weren't doing what you were doing, what profession would you be doing in your next life?
I am doing exactly what I want to do. And I'm going to continue to do this until I'm 120, because that's what I'm hoping to be living to. And if I do have a next life, I hope I do the exact same thing.
It's fabulous. Okay, any nicknames that you could share with us?
I either go by Jay or Jason. That's pretty much it.
Okay, and then a favorite.
My wife calls me different things, but that's probably
That's
only when she's angry at me.
We can save the world of that. Favorite food or cuisine?
I love steak, and the one that's going to drive you crazy, because you probably eat really clean. I love craft dinner. I've loved craft dinner since I was a kid, and I'll still have it for lunch once a week.
Yeah, listen, you're doing triathlons, you're living large. I don't think it's hurting you at all. Okay, just to close, do you have a particular, having listened to yourself, top takeaway?
From me, I really hope that you watch this and you think about how your life could be so much better if you had a passion and excitement, something you're trying, and that you try something. And if you don't like it, try something else. And you don't like it, try something else. But find that thing in life that excites you.
Yeah, the purpose makes all the difference. I appreciate you, Jason, how you're helping us talk about mental health, some of the tough stuff, and how you're supporting our young people in particular. And for sure, you are part of the solution, my friend, helping us all be safe, seen, and heard.
Thank you, Molly. I appreciate you very much.
I'm really grateful. Yeah, we need to meet in person some point.
We
so
absolutely
that's something that we have to do.
We absolutely do. All right. Thank you, my dear.
Thanks. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Okay, folks. Jason is using his voice skillfully and creating the collective communication for people to learn and to grow and to be happy. And I want to help you do the same. So check out Say It Skillfully 101, our program on sayitskillfully.com, as well as Marshall Goldsmith's and my new best-selling book. I'm going to leave you with a final thought, which is words from Jason. AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows AI better than you may very well do so. And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us. Please be part of the solution. Kindly share the show. Amplify Jason's voice. Reflect on your own top takeaways. And no, I'm cheering for you to be who you are and say what needs to be said skillfully so that you and those around you create the shared reality that makes work and life so much better.
Say It Skillfully is finding your authentic voice and knowing how and when best to use it. With clarity, compassion, and confidence, most communication and personal development preach playing the game, so you win. Say It Skillfully teaches you how to change the game, so relationships strengthen, performance improves, and everyone wins.